As successful as Nightmare 4 was, at that point in the series, there really was nowhere else to go. The film did some creative things, but basically it was a flashier version of Nightmare 3, and did little to expand the story. What it did give us was a timid little flower named Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox, who by the end of the film becomes a lethal femme fatale to fight off Freddy in hand-to-hand combat. That's all good, but now the series begs the question, what happened to that character? Alice is, once again, the lead character in this, the 5th outing for the series, and for good reason. This time, Freddy goes after his quarry through the dreams of her unborn child, hence the clever title. While an interesting concept, it again borrows from what the last 2 films established, allowing Freddy to enter the dreams at will by using a gatekeeper, so to speak. And one thing none of the films really establish is, do the victims who are dragged into someone's dream against their will need to actually be sleeping? You would think so, but for whatever reason they neglect to show it. The filmmakers opted to darken the tone of this film, in contrast to the campy Dream Master, but Freddy still uses a lot of his classic one-liners.
It's a boy! Better not dream and drive! Bon appetit, bitch!
So if anything, it's even less credible, making it kind of hard to take seriously. What it does well is to re-establish Freddy's backstory, actually giving us a glimpse of his past through one of Alice's first nightmares. We also get to see what Freddy apparently looked like as an infant, which is laughable to say the least. Throughout the film, Alice dreams about conversing with her unborn child, Jacob, who is fathered by Dan.
Hi, Alice. Want to make babies?
What's wrong with me? You're just a little pregnant.
She realizes that Freddy not only uses Jacob's dreams to pull in his victims, but that he also feeds Jacob the memories of her dead friends. It's a twisted concept, but in the long run has no real relevance to the story. It also provides a strange anti-abortion message.
Have you thought about not having the baby? I mean, no baby's dreams.
And there's a side story in which Dan's parents attempt to have Alice sign her unborn child away for adoption. This would almost be touching if it weren't happening in the middle of a slasher film. The characters this time around are a little less interesting, and the only thing making them really stand out are their gruesome, over-the-top deaths. I'd have to go with Mark's superhero death here.
Told ya! Comic books was bad for ya!
Although there isn't much to choose from because there are only 3 death scenes here, putting it way below par for a top-rate slasher film. Fortunately, they're all pretty cool sequences, and the visual effects are, again, mind-blowing, but it's still pretty lackluster considering the low body count. Nightmare 5 culminates with another battle between Alice and Freddy, although it's more confusing than entertaining. Freddy tries using Jacob against Alice, and even tries using Dan's persona to confuse the poor child.
Kids, always a disappointment.
Of course, at the last minute, Freddy's mother steps in and sets things straight.
Jacob, Alice will not triumph. Only you can help her now. Now, Jacob. Unleash the power he has given you.
There wasn't a lot of thought put into the climax here, and it just doesn't make sense. Basically, Jacob barfs on Freddy, and Freddy explodes into some kind of fleshy mess. Whatever. It's mildly entertaining, but it probably is one of the worst in the series, which is disappointing considering that most of the previous films kept one-upping each other. There's just not enough here to keep it fresh anymore. Like many horror franchises, the Nightmare series was starting to grow stale, and this was the first one to really exemplify that. Aside from using the dreams of an unborn child, the rest of it is just a bunch of stock characters who are set up for another bloodbath.
Yeah, it's just a little blood guy.
I know what it is, you big dumb jock.
And like I said at the beginning, what happened to the bitchin' Alice we saw at the end of The Dream Master? Does the film ignore that that ever happened? The Alice in this one doesn't do much but pout and give long expositional stories about Freddy. Sure, I know she's a mom now, but come on, moms can be tough. Just look at Mrs. Voorhees.
You let him drown. You never paid any attention. Look what you did to him.
I don't want to give the impression that it's a horrible movie because it's not, but it definitely lowered the bar of an amusing film series.